We are almost there. We've written our complete solution that we're going to use to test against the user's input. We've written our test cases, both our basic and our random. Now we just need to do two more things. We need to enter in an initial solution, and we don't have to, but it's good practice to write some example test cases to help get the user going in the correct direction. So the initial solution, all it's going to be is the declaration of the function that we want them to write. So they know what to call it because we're calling it this over here on our tests. They need to know what to call it here. And in my case, I'm also feeding in some data just to make it clear. Preloaded data and zone, which is going to be an integer. And this is potentially confusing because my preloaded data is coming from over here. They're not going to see the preloaded data tab, so I'm going to also leave a little note, but they'll probably figure it out pretty quickly. So that's all we really need for the initial solution. All we're doing is just declaring the function, giving it the name that it needs to have in order for us to use it in our tests. And I'm going to write a little comment, say your code here. And then I'm also going to do a little explainer about where the preloaded data is coming from. Preloaded data being piped into this function for you. And I've already written a note about this in the test description, so hopefully that's clear. Now let's write some example test cases. We're going to write a few, but the user can also write their own. And these are going to look pretty much like our full test suite, and they can be a little simpler. So we're going to use the test object again, assert equals. I'm going to call our function, the preloaded data. And I happen to know that 53 is going to return a value. But I have to check quickly what it is. Okay, should return peanut butter patties. So this is what we expect to get back. Close it out. And now actually to test this out, we're not going to use this. This is pretty cool. As a creator, let's save our work. I forgot to mention that. This is probably, I imagine you're writing this elsewhere, but it's a good idea to save your work periodically. Luckily, the browser won't let you refresh or navigate away. It'll give you a warning. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview. And this is pretty cool because we can preview what it's like to solve our kata from the user's perspective. And I highly recommend you try doing this before you publish your kata because there might be some things you've overlooked, and it helps you put yourself in the shoes of the user. So we're going to preview, and now we can run a sample test from the test that we just wrote. Try again. Okay, cool. We passed. So that's how that works. And that's how you test your sample tests. Let's go back and put a couple more in there. And since I've already written these, I'm just going to bring them in. There. So a note about this, you want to make sure that you're testing for all the different types of answers your kata could require. So in my case, sometimes we're going to get an empty string, so we want to make sure that we include a test case that tests for an empty string. We know that sometimes we're only going to get 2 cookie varieties back, so we want to include that test. We know that sometimes, I know that for this specific input, we're going to get 3 cookie varieties back. So I want to make sure that I test for that and then throw in a few others for good measure. And I think that should be enough to get someone started, and of course they can always write their own tests. And that is pretty much it. The last thing I want to mention is, it's probably obvious, but these help tags are your friend. I certainly refer to them as I was doing this exercise. Some other good resources, a really thorough one is the Conjured Code Wars Codex. It's cool. Someone went through a lot of time to go into detail about authoring kata. And also the Code Wars docs are good too. There is documentation on writing tests in general, as well as language-specific documentation. And that is all I've got for you. The last step is we'll go ahead and publish this. I've actually already published this kata. This is just a sample version, so I'm not going to click this right now. But when you're ready to release your kata into the wild, go ahead and hit this button. Thank you for watching.